So I'm in Scotland and I've only bought just one e-ink device, and well, that's the Books Palmer. But I thought it's an interesting point, and I keep getting asked this question. If I could have just one e-ink device, what would that be? It's nice today that the sun's actually come out, because yesterday it did nothing but rain. And yeah, I've been staying at this glorious place called the Inver, next to Loch Fyne, which is a sea loch here. We're walking over here to Lochland Castle. And yeah, I've just been staying in these little shepherd's hut. I did want to do a little bit of talking to the camera in front of the hut, but of course, if you stop in Scotland at this time of year, then you get attacked by midges. So I'm walking and talking as I go. And yeah, last night, just generally on this trip, I've been really enjoying reading on the Books Palmer. I've been reading Muriaki, the Wind-Up Bird Chronicles, fascinating book. And yeah, would it be e-ink at all is a question that I've been wrestling with recently on my channel. And certainly this is an OLED Z Fold 3, and it's got a lot of benefits. Right now I'm also testing the P12 matte, which of course is a really nice use of an LCD screen. It should give you a little bit better viewing out in the daylight. It does make it a little bit better to see out in the full sun or in the bright day like we've got today. And yeah, there's lots of reasons why this OLED Z Fold 3 would be the tablet of choice if I could just have one device. But for reading, absolutely not. And is e-ink the best technology? I've got these 3 different ones to compare. Is the Palmer, is that really worth £280 for something which is best for reading? Is the Z Fold 3, this one, is worth £1.5 grand, or at least the newer generation of it will be. And the LCD matte, the P12, somewhere in the region of sort of £400. Now the point is, the P12 matte will do everything, and I've been doing a fair bit of things like photo editing. I tried a little bit of video editing, and that was a little bit of a no-go actually. That wasn't really the fault of the P12 matte, it was the fault of the apps that I was trying to use. And you know, Adobe software doesn't even run on that P12 matte, and it should do. And I wasn't going to, just for the sake of doing a video edit on it, which is harder than on the computer, I wasn't going to pay for KineMaster, which I've used before on Android and works really well. And I even tried YouTube Create, which for some reason only lets you do 1080p, and you need 4K, don't you? Let's face it. You deserve 4K. But e-ink, you know, e-ink has replaced paper for me. It's replaced my paper planner. It's done that at work. And now the question is not, can it replace paper with one of these P12 mattes or this OLED screen, but really, can it replace e-ink? Because e-ink has worked its way into my workflow and is very secure in my mind as its use for note-taking, for planning, and for productivity as well. I've gradually transferred a lot of what I do on LCD screens and OLED screens onto the e-ink tablets, and actually now it's jarring to go away from them. And well, why is this Z Fold such a mainstay in my tech combo? It's because it's a phone, isn't it? It's got 4G, it's got calls, all of those things. And I'm very much looking forward to the next generation of Palmer-sized e-ink tablets, Palmer-sized e-ink devices, the phones that we're going to get from Big Me, and I hope eventually books as well. And it's also about using the Notes app, and yeah, the Samsung Notes app, when I used it on here, was quite good. I could just bring in my PDF planner and it became a notebook. What I've been using on the P12 matte and on here and on my e-ink devices recently has been OneNote, and that's a very powerful note-taking app, and using that along with the Microsoft suite of devices should be quite good. But yeah, none of them so far are going to replace e-ink for reading words and writing words. I know, stop posing there. And yeah, OLED screens, they really do struggle with polarizing sunglasses as well, so that's doubly difficult. And Scotland is not too sunny, although the sun's just come out for a moment, and we've managed to avoid the midges in this little spot, so that's nice. But as you can see, this is just too much of a reflection of the sky, really. And that's as bright as it can go. OneNote's been very good though. I've enjoyed that, using that across devices, although you need to be connected to the internet, it seems, to use it. And what's great about this form factor is having that S Pen, having that Wacom EMR pen, which is essential in my opinion. If you're going to have a note-taking tablet, you need a really good stylus input. This form factor is great, and it would really suit an e-ink tablet if somebody could make a foldable with a small stylus. As far as I'm aware, there is no e-ink tablet the sort of phone size that has a good stylus input. The Big Me was all right with its capacitive one, but that's just at a pinch. But actually the P12 has been really good. And I think I will really keep it around because the folio, the keyboard folio is really good for typing, and the note taking is really good on it as well. It does look the business. Every time you look at it, you think to yourself, gosh, this screen is a real pleasure to use. But it's IPS, so it's emissive. And still it is going to be having to do the same thing. You know, matte screen protectors, I'm sure even the iPad Nano texture is not going to manage to be diffuse enough to get rid of enough of that glare. It's just that you don't get this kind of spectral reflections. You don't get these things that look like images of the clouds or the windows and make it difficult to squint through. The only way that an emissive screen can overcome sun's light is by being brighter. And even this OLED screen, it can't be anywhere near bright enough. So I know iPad are trying to say, well, what you need is 2 OLED screens. So you need 1,000 nits of brightness to get over that glare. Still going to be squinting through the glare. This, though, I'm convinced is an ideal form factor. So give us something like this, foldable with the ink, be ideal. It's your phone, though, and it does steal your focus. So I'd just say, yeah, for me on that P12 and on this thing, do not disturb mode is really your friend. Put yourself a schedule on, put yourself a schedule during your work hours, make sure you've got those focus bits of time. And that's something that I've been doing on books tablets all the while. You don't necessarily need a bespoke user interface that misses out so many of those niceties that you're used to having on Android to get that focus. You can use your computing devices, you can use them in such a way that is going to benefit you and give you that focus, rather than just think it has to be a bespoke device. It's not the case that you have to spend 600 quid on something that is focused on one task only for you to achieve focus. You can decide how to use your devices. They're all designed in such a way that you can actually decide whether they're distracting you or not. It comes down to, what you install on it. It comes down to which notifications you allow. It comes down to you making intentional decisions about how you use tech. What do you think about your screen in like bright sunlight?
This screen is absolutely fine with the polarizing sunglasses.
Hold it there. Now turn it through 90 degrees. When you tilt it through landscape, you could definitely.
You see, I think that's very good. But what I was going to say is, HP laptop is completely unreadable with the polarizing sunglasses.
If I could have just one, what would it be? Let's return to that question. Well, it couldn't quite be an e-ink smartphone only, really. That couldn't do all of what I'd want to do on e-ink, although I'm really looking forward to exploring more about how I'm going to use a future e-ink phone. One thing that I'll do is go ahead and think about all of the apps that I use on my Z Fold and think, how much do I want to use them? And what do I want to be here in my pocket all the time on an e-ink phone? And what can I save for a tablet of some description in my home? Now this thing, if I was to buy just one device, this might be quite close actually, because there's lots of benefits to this. I've been really enjoying this. Put it into its PC mode. But even this thing on its own couldn't actually replace a whole laptop. I have really liked it, and I've been using OneNote, as I say. This is my sort of notes for this video that I've been building up with a mixture of typing and using the pen to write little notes. And you can really see the difference between the notes that I've written on the Z Fold with the stylus on here and on the P12 matte. And the reason for that is because this screen is just so slippery, and it's really mushy as well because it's a foldable. It's got this kind of really not so pleasant to write on screen feel. And of course on the newer Z Fold devices, they even try and give you a little bit of that screen-like feeling by making the speakers play a little scratchy sound as you write with the pen, as if that's what we really wanted. It's not about having the sound is just an indication of how it feels to type. You know, we do that when we review these devices. It gives you an impression of how frictiony that screen is, how abrasive that screen is, and how much of a sort of rough paper-like feel are you going to get. And yeah, I've really been enjoying typing on this as well, and I'm gonna be reviewing this in its entirety. I'm living with this at work. I've got my work planner on here at the moment, and it's working absolutely great. I've been, just really enjoying it. Goes into vertical mode, and you can see I've got my planning on there for my week as well. So it's good, and it quickly goes back into PC mode when you pair it like that. So just one device, yeah, sure, this would be great, but it isn't replacing a laptop, it isn't replacing a big PC, it just doesn't have the connectivity, it doesn't have the options with the processor in it as well. So good things, but can't be your one and done. But if I sort of narrow this down to what sort of one note-taking device would I have, or what one e-ink device would I have, and that's really the kind of choice that we're talking about here. Which one would I buy if I could have just one? This would be a really tough choice, actually. You'll see the A5X is still here fulfilling a role on my desk. It's currently got all of my notes of what I'm to be writing, what I'm to be editing, this kind of like massive growing list all the time of things that I'm working on. The Inknote X I'll be filming just straight after this. It would come down to this one, I think, or the Tab Ultra C Pro. And actually this is what I'm going to revisit next. The Tab Ultra C Pro is going to have a firm place in my bag for a little while, following fully reviewing this, unless of course anything else arrives for review that I need to try. But I'm going to try this out because it's got a lot of similarities with this P12 matte, and I think honestly this might be a choice that some of you might be actually weighing up. If you want a paper-like screen, do you want to go for the LCD matte or do you want to go for the e-ink? I think it depends on your sort of other use there. Are you someone who's going to want to take it out and hold it like a reader? Because you can do that here on the Tab Ultra C Pro. And sure, that's a possibility here, but I think one thing I've convinced myself of is that reading is just always that much better here on an e-ink screen. And both of them you can work with your badged Microsoft work apps rather than just your personal ones. So there's a lot of similarities, a lot of interest between those. Neither of them have good enough processors to be able to display up to a board, unfortunately. But this is the hardest choice between these two, between the Supernote type device, which is really focused in on reading, yep, sure, but also writing. And okay, I know I talked about you don't want a one and done device only. This is not just that. You can calendar on here, you can plan on here, you can write on here. There's loads of options on here. And actually in my more recent drawing comparison, I found that this won the drawing category because this Atelier app they've put in it is so good for drawing on. But you can't go to a YouTube studio on it, for instance. So these are the two, and join me because I think I'll make this the subject of a live stream and a discussion really between these two devices because they're quite dissimilar. The only similarity really is the e-ink. Perhaps if it's the one e-ink device, because this has so many similarities to a laptop, which you can't replace a full laptop yet with this. Roll on a time when you can do that, when you can actually have a full e-ink laptop. But right now, because this isn't quite replacing a laptop, I think if it was just one e-ink device, I don't know, join me on a live stream soon.